thing that we've heard is I want to be white people rich. So talking through our thoughts on that, is that a possibility? Does that make sense? And just how to go about our clients wanting to be white people rich. So I'll kick it over to you, Andrew. When you hear that, what are some of your thoughts when we've had people say that?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. There's been a lot of press. I mean, I probably can't go a week without hearing the stat of the wealth gap that the average black person has $10,000 of net worth and the average white person has $181,000, give or take some 10, 20 times more. So it makes sense that if I heard that 100, 200 times, that a goal of mine would be to mirror the white community or who I think has more money. Also, if I turn on the TV and watch what I see to be rich people, Kardashian, Succession, whatever that is in the media, it's aspirational. Like people are showing us that so that we want to be that. But there's a lot of problems with that, right? One, it's a terrible comparison point. There are a lot of poor white folks. And it's also hasn't been a fair race to date. So choosing to compare yourself, first off, comparison is the thief of joy. Comparing yourself is really not a good way to go about any race, financial, career, anything. But to choose a comparison point of a fictitious white rich family puts you in a position to continually try to strive for something that may not be realistic and that actually at the end of the day may not bring you happiness. So although I know exactly where it comes from and I understand the desire, I think white people rich as a goal is not a real goal. And we need to really unpack, like, what does that look like for you? How do you spend your time? How do you help your family? How much do you need to earn to feel comfortable? Or are you doing it for the perception of wealth, which is a trap in and of itself?
I think one thing that you said that I agree with, that resonates with me, is it's not a fair goal. So thinking through it not being a fair goal, like why do you say that?
Wealth accumulates over time. One of the biggest factors in the equation of wealth building is time, compounding interest, compounding investments. And for the vast majority of American history, Black Americans have not been allowed to compound, control, and grow wealth, whether that be different mortality tables in insurance where your insurance costs more, whether it be access to investments, whether it be access to capital, whether it be access to education, whether it be access to housing. It has not been a fair game to play for Black Americans specifically, especially when compared to white Americans in America. So to get to a place now with most of our Black Americans' family lineage where they are the first or second generation to have access to financial services that are fair, and access to education on how to do it and not having discrimination when they walk into a bank or try to trade stocks and bonds, isn't a fair fight when you're comparing yourself to someone who's had 6, 7 generations of fair treatment in financial services. We haven't even talked about employment, how much you earn and being able to stay there. So it's not a fair comparison. It's not a fair goal, and it can set you up for really poor success.
I think we do have some clients that are able to earn money really, really well and are able to grow wealth and understand how to grow wealth. And when they think of, and I don't know if they're the ones that are thinking of trying to be white people rich or white people wealthy, but when they are able to grow wealth, it might not be too far. It might not be too far of a comparison to say, I want to be white people rich and grow my money to a certain status. But then the thought for me is, what does that look like for you? Like when you say you want to be white people rich, like what does that mean? Like is that $1 million? Is that $20 million? Is that $1 billion? Like what does that look like? Is that a fair goal for you? So being able to think through exactly what do they mean when they say white people rich, or is that just a fictitious goal? Or is this something that, no, I'm serious. I want to be white people rich, which means $20 million by the time I turn 50. Like, okay, like that let's talk about that. How can we get to $20 million by the time you turn 50? If that's your white people rich goal. So not just making a statement like, man, I wanna be white people rich. But digging into what that actually means and what that actually looks like.
I agree. We have to quantify it. I think when we quantify it, it brings it closer to home, less aspirational, more like how do we strategize our way there? I think it's a smart idea for us to pause before we quantify it to say, why is that important? Why is having $20 million important to you? If the answer has to do with being able to take care of your family, does it take $20 million to take care of your family? If the answer is, I want to have a building named after me to give to a college, why is that important to you as well? Because I think we fall into a trap of chasing things, accomplishments that actually aren't what we want. They're what we've been taught to want. And I think there can be a lot of unhappiness and depression that sets in when you achieve a goal that's taken you a very long time to achieve, only to realize that it actually wasn't your dream. It was someone else's dream for you. And so I think that's some of the work we're doing with clients is, why is this important? This actually doesn't reflect the values that we talked about. So, why are you looking to spend the next 20 to 30 years chasing after this goal? Is it really, is the pull really that strong, and is it really that important for you? And sometimes it is, and we're like, bet, let's do it. But sometimes it falls apart under scrutiny, and we can set and start brainstorming their specific life goals and the life they want to design and create for less than $20 million usually.
So when you think of someone setting a goal of, I want to be white people rich, what would you consider as a better goal? What would you consider as a better goal?
Yeah. I think that is really helpful in framing what people are actually experiencing. So when we talk about top 10% of Americans net worth, if we're talking about white people rich, we're talking about the median having 181,000 of income or $181,000 of net worth. So I say we set percentile numbers, right? If we want to earn in the top 10%, if we want to accumulate the top 10% of Americans, that's fine. You'll find that those numbers are less than 20 million, right? I also think it's important to quantify a lifestyle, which can really be helpful to say to a person, hey, actually, freedom to me in the city I want to live, with the lifestyle I want to live, this is what it costs me. And sometimes we can do that for $8,000 a month, $10,000 a month, and we can back into how much money do we need to accumulate to give you that lifestyle for the rest of your life, or how much of an asset do we need to figure out, or what if we're working for an employer, what type of remote lifestyle do we want to create, or what type of skill sets do we need to build so that we can live the life we want in perpetuity. Because that type of flexibility and goal setting is really what gets people to financial freedom and more fulfillment.
I think it's important also to consider, similar to what you said, why do I want to be white people rich? Why is that important? But also, I don't know how to say it. The white people rich that you're trying to be, are they white people rich? If that makes sense. Like, it may look like they have a lot of money because of how they present themselves, but are they really where you want to be from the perspective of I want to have saved this much money. I want to have this much set aside for later. I want to be able to live within my means. Are you trying to chase someone that is unhealthy financially just because of the perception of it? And I think that goes a long way, not only from the perspective of Black people rich, right? But also being aware. I mean, they're making unhealthy financial decision and having an unhealthy financial lifestyle is not race specific. So
Agree. Being
mindful that let's not chase a perception that may not be healthy. Understand. Let me go about it the right way. So, anything else before we wrap?
No, I think you hit it on the head. The last thing I was thinking about when you talked about that is, Black folks, we know what hood rich is, right? We've talked about for years that hood rich and wealthy are not the same. Hood rich is usually displaying things, having a Benz, having gold, giving off the air of rich, but actually not having. And we need to really understand that white folks do that too. And some of the folks that we are trying to model our aspirational goals after are just white hood rich themselves. So let's make good financial decisions, and let's also work on our comparison points of who we think are our ideal financial goals. So yeah, we'll wrap. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. And if you'd like to get more insights, feel free to visit us at alchemistwealth.com. We've got great articles and insights around topics just like this. And stay tuned for our next video.